I'm from Holland and we have a very rich culture of building mass housing with beautiful results. And I thought, well, let's introduce that in Russia. But when I tried to do that, I understood that it's easier said than done. It's the way we do this in Holland, but also in Denmark, is very complicated. It takes a lot of time. And as a result, it's very expensive to do it. So I understood that actually mass housing as we build it now, or housing as we build it now in Russia, or in Holland and in Denmark, is a luxury product. And you can of course go to Russia and say, okay, if you want something else, you just have to spend 3 times more money. But it's not a solution because there is not this money. So I understood that you have to find something else. You have to actually find a solution that fits these countries, and you cannot just copy what you are doing in Western Europe to these countries. And then recently, of course, we had the credit crisis, and it became clear that the way we are doing this in Denmark and in Holland is also maybe problematic, because maybe we don't have money for that anymore. And so there is really a serious, very serious question at this moment. How can we go on to high quality housing even if we have not so much money for it? Is how can we make a high quality product that we can use in not only in one place, that we can use in many places? How can we combine high quality with the fact that we can actually reproduce this housing project many times? Because the main advantage of having this standard housing is that you can reproduce it. You have one ready product and you can repeat it. Well, if you look at the old traditional way of reproducing housing, like it's done still in the Soviet Union or in Russia, in many other countries, they produce one module and they reproduce it on the same site for 20, 30, 40, 50 times. So you get a housing area that is completely uniform, completely the same. It's a very bad way of making cities. What I propose is to say, you make one housing project, you reproduce it, but you reproduce it in many places. So you put one building, you put in Copenhagen, another one in Oslo, another one in Stockholm, another one in Rostock, and so forth. So you have actually, you have the advantage of reproduction, but not a disadvantage. Because maybe an architect knows that a certain building that stands in Oslo also is in Copenhagen, and he will say, oh, I've seen that already, it's not interesting. But a normal person that lives there doesn't matter to him, because he sees that there are a lot of other buildings around. So this is one way of doing it. In order to make this happen, you have to do one thing. You have to be sure that in all these cities you have building sites that have the same size. Because otherwise it's impossible to make a project for one city and to put it in another city, because the site will just have another size. Meaning you have to again go to an architect and say, well, I have this project, but you know, it doesn't fit. Can you make new drawings? Well, making new drawings means new approvals, new engineers, new cost calculations, and so forth. So if you say, we have a site in Copenhagen and we have the same site size in Oslo, then you can just reproduce the same building at the new site. And you economize enormous amount of time, very important time, and money, and make the same quality of housing. So this is the idea. The idea is, if you not make a standard block, but you make a block standard. You don't go to a shoe designer and say, you know, I need a shoe, can you start making a drawing, and we're going to discuss if it is nice or not nice, and then in the end you're going to produce this shoe. Nobody's doing that anymore. But you go to a shoe shop where you have an enormous choice. Well, the same will be for architecture. There has been an enormous change in Russian cities, which has been a complete change of the inside of buildings. You won't see it from the outside, but the inside is completely changed. It has been so radical that new housing projects for new Russians, for rich Russians, they are built without interior walls. And each inhabitant invites an interior architect to make his interior. Now, this is something that has been happening already for 10 years. It's called Swobodna Planirovka, free plan. Last year in Amsterdam, they started the first project where they have exactly the same idea. It's called Solids, and they say you can actually buy just the number of square meters, you can make your own interior. Something completely new. It's like advertised that this is really hot, internet 2.0 and so forth. In Russia, they're already doing it for 10 years. So it's a kind of, yeah, because the circumstances are so extreme, so different, but the underlying, let's say, problems or questions are the same, you get very, yeah, unexpected but also very interesting solutions. It's one part of the exhibition. It's called the Iron Curtain. We see first the Iron Curtain as we know it. It's the Iron Curtain around the Soviet Union. It guaranteed the existence of the country, but it kept everybody inside. But inside, everybody was more or less free because there was no difference in income. You didn't have to protect yourself. It was a kind of egalitarian country. Then what happened then was what the Iron Curtain imploded and came onto the window of your apartment. What you see in Russia everywhere is that the windows of first floor apartments, they have gratings in front of them. So people, it's like they sit in prison. It's not like that. They just want to protect their possessions because we have capitalism, difference in income, meaning there are poor people, you are rich, and you want to protect your possessions. So that's the second Iron Curtain. And the third Iron Curtain is maybe the most important one because it works on the level of the city. It's the fact that at this moment, when a new housing complex is built, a fence is put on the property border. There's a tower with apartments, there are parking places around it, and around it there's a fence with security guards and an entrance where you have to be controlled and so forth. So the Iron Curtain moves there, meaning that there is a border between the public space and the private building. So you get a city that actually only exists of gated compounds, and people move between it with cars. And actually you have the worst combination of a communist principle, which is a standard housing block, and a capitalist principle, which is private property and a fence around it. And this is the nightmare city that we have to get rid of, because this is the city as it is being built everywhere in developing countries. Tower blocks with fences around it.